I had a pretty rough go of it the last 15 minutes, guys. Guitar's not in tune. OBS put some kind of. The stream key was so long that I sat with the highlighter and highlighted the stream key and pulled it all the way to the left to where it keeps scrolling. I sat there for 5 minutes and scrolled through this binary code. I don't know where it got it from. Very strange. I gave up. Then I rebooted OBS praying whatever code, whatever I did would disappear. It didn't disappear. So I had to keep erasing the code until it come up with a blank screen. So it was a rough go of it, but I'm glad I made it. So how's everybody doing tonight? I see we got. Let me go through see who's here. I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. We got Nicholas, Devastator. We got Mr. Jupe, Jerry, Funny Honey, Kurt Inscale's in the group, and Mikey's in the group. And Mikey said first. First man to show up. I like it. Well, if you look right here, there is a pile of parts. When I say a pile of parts, there's a pile of parts that came Wednesday. And this stuff is for Mr. Jupe's guitar. And we're going to kind of go over the goodies that came to fix his guitar. There's a bunch of goodies in here. When I say goodies, they're really goodies. All, I think they're all tremolo parts, if I remember correctly. And just so you know, and Jupe, don't let the cat out of the bag, I got your package today. And tonight, Avery is having Jupe juice. You heard me right. Jupe sent me a special drink, and Linnell has already made it for me. It's in the refrigerator. And she said that she followed the directions, and she thought I'd want it cranked up a little bit. So instead of 2 teaspoons, 2 8 ounces, like a little cup, she put 5 in it. So if there's caffeine in this stuff, I'm going to be bouncing all over the walls. So, you want to grab that stuff? Before they're going to go to the store. So while they go to the store, she's going to go in there and grab the Jupe juice. And if you guys don't know what the Jupe juice is, can you bring the little container in? She's going to bring the container in. Jupe sent me a package. She's getting the stuff now. So this will be my first gander at this stuff, and really first attempt at it. I'm hearing the Jeopardy music in the background playing. I would play it, but I'd get a copyright strike. So here's the stuff pre-made, and here's the stuff Jupe sent me. There it is. And look right here. It says official state drink of Rhode Island. So I'm gonna have some Rhode Island Jupe juice here. Rhode Island Jupe juice. All right, guys, here you go. This is the stuff Jupe sent me, and Linnell has cranked it up to 5 teaspoons. It kind of tastes like cold chocolate milk with a kick of coffee. Kind of what it tastes like. Well, Mr. Jupe, thank you for the special surprise. We're going to get the guitar out to you tomorrow. It's already over there sitting and waiting. I got to tape up the box. Once the box is taped up, probably get out USPS, probably around 1 or 2, something like that. And I appreciate the gift. This is awesome. This stuff's good. And if you just joined the group and you didn't see what it was, you're going to have to rewind. It's the official drink of Rhode Island. Jupe sent me some. Pretty yummy. I like it. Anyway, guys, I did order a cable because we have Linnell's amplifier over there. And the night that we tested it, we had two microphones in front of it. And it has a headphone out. So I can demo that like we do the Line 6. So I got one of these little cables. And it's got the stereo headphone jack on that end. And then on this end, it has LXRs. So I can run it into the Mackie just like I'm doing the Line 6. And we can do a true demo on that so you can actually get the stereo imaging on it. So we're probably going to do that next Thursday. Actually do a proper review on that little amplifier. Now I'm going to go back and read the chat because I lost my chat moderator. So the stream's going to be a complete train wreck now that the moderator, the in-house moderator that reads the chat for me and yells in is gone. So, oh, I see Ted just joined the group, and we have Daniel. I'm not sure if Daniel's ever commented in the group before. If you're new, cool. If you're not, I have a squirrel brain and I forget things. But while we have all these parts out here, if you've been here, you know Devastator, not Devastator, Jupe sent me a guitar, and the guitar has some tremolo issues. So the first thing I ordered for the guitar, since it's a Floyd Rose special, I wanted a harder base plate, something that when you put a knife edge on it and you abuse the tremolo, the knife edge is going to stay sharp and it's not going to dull like the Floyd Rose special and the new screen printed Floyd Rose. You know, that it just says Floyd Rose on it. Those are even cheaper than the special. And usually any guitar under $350 with a Floyd Rose has that bridge. This particular piece is the FR1000, and it is the hardened metal. And now you notice it does come with the fine tuners, and it comes with the hardware here. If you decide to do everything that we're doing, Floyd Rose does crimp the bottom of the thread on the fine tuners. So when you back this out, let's take this out of the package. It's brand new. And of course they tape and glue and there we go. Fresh sealed. So if we take this out and really look at it, and one of the screws that we don't need just fell out. One of the little locking screws. So if you look right here on this end of this screw, you'll see that they've damaged. Right there you can see it. See that shiny spot? That's where they've actually damaged the thread. And that's so you can't back the fine tuner out. It stops. Which is great. I'm going to try to find that screw. Which is great if you never plan on taking the fine tuners out. But if you want to upgrade, okay, like we're going to do, we have to remove that. Now you can be like a gorilla and you can just force that out and it's going to mess up the threads. The best thing to do is to push these in, then come in here with a small Dremel and sand that spot out and get it back into the fine part of the thread and then back them out. If you do the gorilla method, you will have to use a chase. Do not use a tap and die. They're already tapped and died. If you mess up threads, always use a chase and chase the threads. There's a big difference, guys. Do not use a tap and die, just chase the existing threads. So this is the new hardened base plate for Jute. Let's put that back in the package so it stays nice. And we don't use substandard parts here. This is an authentic Floyd Rose part. So our next part that we have for Mr. Jute, I'm going to set that right there. Whenever you change base plates, or like a Floyd Rose Special or the cheaper bridge, and you put the hardened base plate in, you can't use the old posts because the posts and the base plate need to be similar hardness materials. They need to be the same. You can't have a hard post and a soft base plate because then it eats the base plate. If you have a hard base plate and soft posts, then it just eats the posts. So I ordered brand new posts. Now I grabbed the silver ones. I ordered some black ones too because I was out of stock. So this is a set of the silver ones. And these are for the FR1000, exact same hardness. So we're going to pull the inserts, put new inserts in it. And that's going to ensure that the tremolo stays right. Now, the next thing, if you look at a Floyd Rose, a lot of the back of the saddle has the screw that goes through it, and there's a little spring on the back side of that. And most of them come up and they're flat. If you look at this one right here, this is a Floyd Rose upgrade part. Well, I probably should take it out. You can probably see it better. This one has a little notch cut in it. Now, some of the German ones do come with this one, and then some of them don't. It's kind of hit and miss on what you get. But if you look at how this back spring plate is made, you see these little humps? That screw fits in that little hump. And you wouldn't think that would make too much difference, but that increases the surface area as that screw lays on this spring piece. So it's not hitting just one spot in the screw. This radius matches the screw radius. So when it pushes on it, it's pushing on at least 1/3 of the bottom of the screw to keep that saddle up and in position. So that's an upgraded spring plate. And if you're not familiar with that, all you have to do, you get on StewMac, Amazon sometimes carries them. I think this one comes from StewMac. Pretty sure this order was StewMac. I have to go back and look. Pretty sure I ordered it at StewMac. But Amazon does have this one sometimes. So you have to pay attention and look. So let's look at the next PC part I got him. Now I have two different ones here, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to be able to use. Now these are the L blocks. So underneath the plate, okay, there's a socket for the arm, okay, and right here is an arm. So you can see the socket right here. That socket goes in that L section, okay? Most blocks don't have that. The block sets to one side. This adds a little mass. Now this one I think is a 37. Yeah, this is a 37 millimeter made by Music Lily. It's a really good block. They make a 32, a 34, a 37, I think a 40 and a 42. But if you look at the Floyd Rose block, the L section is just a little bigger. The drawback to the Floyd Rose block, one, it's twice the cost, sometimes 3 times the cost. But the problem with these is finding them in stock. Most of the time they're out of stock everywhere. They do make a 36, a 38, a 34, a 32, a 30, a 40. The only one I could find was a 42 that was in stock. So I ordered 2 of these. And the 42 is pretty big. It's got to be a pretty thick guitar. Now you can put this on a mill, and you can mill, all you need to do is mill, 4 millimeters off. No sense in getting a 42. If you're milling it down to 39, you can get a 40 if you can find it in stock. So got this one and got this one. So if you take the Music Lily, the 37, and you can find a 37 FR, which I don't think they make. I think it goes in 2 millimeter steps. The Floyd Rose is going to be just a fraction heavier due to the longer extended L piece. But as far as material quality and thread pitch, they're both equally as good. There's no difference in quality. So I don't know which one we're going to end up using depending on its clearance, but we're going to max it out. The bigger the block, the more sustain you get. And before anyone says it, yeah, you have titanium. There's all different kinds of materials that some of these companies use, and some of them do change the tone. The brass block will give it a warmer tone. Stainless steel sometimes will brighten the tone if you do it on a saddle. I've never used a stainless steel block, okay, so I don't know if that would make it as bright as using as like a stainless steel saddle. But there is a slight difference when you go to a stainless steel saddle. You will get a little bit more brightness out of the guitar. Usually the brass, though, gives it more warmth. But I can't tell you what the stainless steel block would do. I've never installed one in a guitar. So there's the two blocks. And what other goodies we got? Now this is a part that I've talked about on the show several times. And this is a Floyd Rose turbo bar. And they do not make a tremolo and put this stock on any of their tremolos. And I'm not sure why they don't do that. This is the best bang for your buck tremolo bar money will buy. Is there better? Yes, there's better. I forget what the company is. It's like $80 for the bar. I'm not spending $80 for a tremolo bar. This one here is a really good bar. I'm going to unthread it and I'm going to show you what's so special about it. If you look at the end of the bar, it has two seats. It has the small pin and a larger diameter pin. And in here, you're going to see there's two different shaft holes. One smaller, one larger. That's for this to intersect in. So it has two different diameter pitch bores. So that eliminates almost 99% of the slop. And then when you go to tighten it down, that takes the rest out. So this bar has very, very, very little slop, and it'll still allow the tremolo to move. And it's pivoting on two different radiuses. It's called the turbo bar. Model number on this. I'm just going to flip it over and y'all can read it. It's a great improvement. If you have a Floyd Rose and the bar is flopping around, this is the one you need. So it's a great improvement. It's the one thing that I do to all my tremolos. It's pretty much done. I'm gonna do it. What else we got over here? Now, for the super nice pieces, I've used a bunch of different companies. I've spent more money and I've spent less money. Best bang for your buck, Amazon. I know, Amazon. It's the only place I found it. These things are stupid quality and they're at about $55 right now. And it's the Cash stainless steel saddle and hardware set. And when I say these things are stupid nice, the tolerances and the machining quality on these is top notch, guys. It is stupid good. I don't want to take this one out of the package. It's got a lot of little finicky parts. But I can show you a guitar that already has those installed. So let me grab the guitar real quick. So here is a guitar that actually has the turbo bar and those saddles already installed. And it comes with the stainless steel hardened securing blocks inside the saddles. It is just stupid quality. And it comes with these screws, the saddles, the tuners, and the locking screws, and the nuts for inside the saddles for $55. It's a stupid deal. You're upgrading a Floyd Rose, don't hesitate. Just get these. Save yourself the time and the anguish. They're awesome. I will say this. It will make the guitar a fraction brighter. It's stainless steel. It's something that stainless steel does. If you want to get some of that back, you can find companies that make the locking block that goes inside. You can get that in brass. The problem with brass is you will have to replace it probably. I don't know how often you change strings. Brass is soft. So you got that stainless steel saddle and screw on the back. So when you tighten that down against that string, the brass is going to compress a little bit each time you do it. So would you get 20 or 30 string changes? I would imagine so. But that brass is softer, so it's going to resonate a little differently than the stainless steel. So you can probably take a little bit of that sharpness back out of the stainless steel saddle by putting the brass blocks on it. I haven't done that on any of my guitars. I have had customers that have said, I want to put as much brass in as I can. So I put the brass in there. I have yet to find a company that makes this piece in stainless, and this little piece in here is separated. I've yet to find a company that has a stainless steel outer casing with the brass easing for the string to go over. So if someone that knows a company that makes that, I would be curious to check it out and see what the price is. But from my knowledge on stainless steel, this is the best set that you can get. So let me put this guitar back up. And other goodies for Jupe. If you're setting up a guitar with Floyd Rose and you do not have these, then you're not setting up the guitar. I've heard people, I set up a guitar. Well, do you have shims for a Floyd Rose? I'm like, shims? The saddles are numbered. Yeah, I know the saddles are numbered. If you flip over the saddle, there's usually 3 different size saddles, okay? Just because your smaller saddle, okay, you got a small, medium, large as far as the height. Don't necessarily look at it as the large saddles go in the center, the medium ones, out from that, and the smallest ones on the low E and high E. That gives you your radius, right? Don't think of it that way because every saddle is manufactured at a little different height. Now, there are manufacturers that will tell you if you open up the back of these, there is a laser etched mic'd measurement on every one of these saddles, okay? And I can already tell you there's 3 different sizes, okay? This is where this comes into play. Let's say you put it together and your radius is too steep. Okay, now you have shims. These are the special shims that go under the saddle. Yeah, some people claim it's a pain in the butt, but you have to take the screw out, lift the saddle, tuck the shim in, and that little hole in the shim, that's where that screw goes through. Is it rough? Maybe the first couple I struggled with, but now I have what's called a .07 millimeter Allen tool. It's made by, I forget, I think it's a line, but I can put that through the saddle and I can align it, and it goes through the thread pitch of the base plate, and then I can drop the screw in. Now these shims, you can get shims in 3 different sizes. I found that this size works best, the all parts, okay? And the reason I say you don't necessarily want to go small, medium, large, large, medium, small, you may find with this shim, when you put the shim in, that the medium sized saddle, if you're bumping it up, it may go up too much with the shim. So you might take the tallest saddle and put in the second position, and take the medium sized saddle and use a shim or 2 to increase that height to a proper height. Or you might take the medium saddle and put it on the low E, okay, and then put the shorter saddle on the A and then shim it, and then the tallest saddle on the D or the G. Does that kind of make sense, guy? You kind of got to move it around and use the right shim to get the height right. So you write down the spec the measurement on this, you mic this, and you write down your radius. Once you determine how far you're off and you write your saddle number down and how thick this is, you add your thickness or 2 to each saddle size. Then you add all that together and you can calculate which saddle should go where with how many shims. How many people do that? Very few. Most people just run the arc or put a shim under it. I'm just letting you know that sometimes you don't necessarily go small, medium, large, large. It's depending on how it's shimmed. So if you don't have these shims, you're not setting up a Floyd Rose. That's the only way to do it. It's not a Kahler. Kahlers, you don't, like the Kahler 2700, you don't need shims. There's 2 screws underneath the saddle and you raise and lower those screws like a conventional saddle. And then it has a screw that moves the saddle back. It also has 2 screws that move the whole saddle back and forth. So you can change the spacing of the saddles this way or this way across on the bridge. You can't do that with a Floyd Rose. So you got to have these. The next thing you need when you're setting up a Floyd Rose is your first fretted note right here. Let's pretend your nut, when you do your first fretted note, if this string is too high, okay, and you're bending down on the string, okay, that's just like bending the string here. It increases the pitch. So how I look at it, I'm going to fret the first note based on my string action height that I want right in here between the 12th and let's say the 18th. You need an average, 0.06, whatever. Try to get this close, okay? Then measure this distance right there. From your, now you're pushing on the first fret. Mic this distance. That is the distance that you can go to between the nut, okay, and the top of this. So how far that string goes down to touch that fret should be close, okay, if I fret it and I mic here. It's going to be a little bigger. And don't freak out if you can't get it right. These aren't what's called true temperament guitars. I know in my reviews I always check first fretted note. I use that as an example on cutting the nut. Some people mic it off, okay? Some people get the radius. You know, the radius needs to be, if this is, let's just pretend this is 9.5 inch radius on this neck. I put a gauge on this wooden neck. I know YouTube's behind, but if this neck is 9.5 inches, what's the radius on my strings? And I'm going to wait 12 seconds, and I know it's going to kill time, but I want someone to answer me, what is the radius of the strings with a 9.5 inch radius neck, top and bottom? It's not compound, just 9.5. What would you set the radius of the strings to? Anybody? I'm going to play slap guitar while. Nobody's answering. So I guess I'm boring you guys. You guys aren't even paying attention to me. I could talk about crayons and you guys would talk to Linnell. I'm telling you, next Thursday I'm going to get a box of crayons and I'm going to sit in here and I'm going to draw pictures like Bob Ross. And I guarantee you, you guys will still be talking to Linnell and I won't even be part of the conversation. I'm going to get me a little wig too, the little fuzzy wig and a little mallet, and I'm going to get up there with the crayons. And we're gonna do how to do crayons with Crayolas like a liberal. What do y'all think about that? Since nobody wants to answer my question, if you have a 9.5 inch radius, okay, you can't use a 9.5 inch radius gauge to set your strings. Your strings are 0.065, 0.070, 0.075, 0.08 off the fret. Now, how thick is your fret? So if your fret, let's say your fret's 1.5 millimeters, okay? Well, that's 1.5 millimeters plus 9.5 inches, okay? Now you also have to add your string height to that. So what you actually end up with is probably about 9.7-ish on your radius. So when you put your gauge up there, keep that in mind. Your two center strings should almost ring out on a 9.5 radius gauge. You want it to be just a fraction flatter than the 9.5 because it's an offset. If you have a 9.5 inch radius and you offset that radius, we're going to keep it simple. A 1/2 inch, what's the radius? The radius now becomes 10 inches. So keep that in mind. You got to calculate the thickness of your fret plus whatever your action height is to get your radius. And that's what we're doing up here. When we fret here and we mic our first fret, that gives us a ballpark of the distance here. Are you going to be right? Do you want to cut the nut right down to that? No. It's easier to file the nut and check your first fretted note versus filing it down to that measurement and then checking and noticing that you're flat. Now, here's the next thing. Again, these aren't true temperament frets. If you set your 12th perfect, I mean, someone enlightened set up your guitar and your E's perfectly in tune and your 12th is perfectly in tune, I'll bet you $1,000 none of your other frets are. It's not going to happen. The question is, do you want to set the guitar up perfect on the 12th? Or do you want to go from the 12th and go, how many flat notes do you have out of that 12 and how many sharp notes do you have? Some people will set it up and go, I want 6 flats and 6 sharps. And wherever that puts the 12th, that's where the 12th is. Because on average, your A, your G, your E is going to be an average. It's not going to be right anywhere. But on average, it's going to be closer than just being right on your open and just being right on your 12th. Because now you only have 2 right. Some people say, well, that's 2 right. All the other ones are wrong. If you do it the other way, they're all wrong. I'm pointing out why there's so many different ways of doing it. So when we set our nut right here, to get that height and to make the adjustment, don't use pieces of paper under it, guys. They make special shims. And this little pack is from Schaller. And it comes with 6 shims, I think. And they're all 6 are different thicknesses as far as the miking. One is like so thin, you could hold it here and when you blow on it, it wiggles. It's that paper thin. And then there's a pretty heavy one in there. So when you figure out, let's say your nut is too low, okay, and we want to raise it, okay, you can mic it right here. I need to raise this 0.002. So you're going to find the shim that's closest to that with your calipers and put that under the nut, okay, and then retighten it. Another advantage to these are, if this nut is too high, well, you don't want to put a shim under it because then you're going to be even higher. So what you can do, you can take this nut off, and if you have a nice benchtop belt sander, and if you go back and watch my videos, I've shown this, and yes, it does get hot. The trick is to install the screw. Get a scrap screw and put in the nut and hold the screw and practice on scrap metal. Learn how to push down the nut and sand evenly, okay, to start with. You can also taper the nut. You can sand more off of this side than this side. You're only trying to get the high E and low E the same, whatever that gap is. If your center strings are off, you will have to come in here with a file and file that piece of metal. Floyd Rose only makes like 2 or 3 different radius nuts on this cut. And the odds are you're not going to find one. You're only going to find a 12-inch radius nut. So if you have a 10 or a 14 or a 16, odds are if you're looking for an R2 or an R3 nut at a 16-inch radius, you're custom grinding that nut to fit. So get yourself some shims so you can do that. So these were ordered for Jupe's guitar too. And I think we're getting down to the last little parts here that we got in. Now this one didn't come in. I already had these because I have to buy them in bags. This is a brand new jack, and this is a pure tone jack, and it makes contact in two spots. And a lot of people are like, why would you spend basically $8 on a jack? Because these don't fail. The last thing you want is when you plug your guitar and it goes and it's making contact and a bunch of noise. This is a superior jack. So just break down. I think they're like 13 bucks for two. Just break down and never install a regular jack. Just spend the extra money and put this in. It will outlast you, especially if you're my age. And then the only other thing I got, which I still have some, but I was running thin. These are pre-cut shims from StewMac. And the one end of the shim is paper thin. When I say paper thin, it's paper thin. And they've got 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. And there's 2 of each in this little container. I think it might be 3 of each in this container. It's like 12 bucks, guys. Don't take a credit card or a piece of paper and cut it and shut. When you're working on a guitar, try to remember you're trying to get that resonance from the neck to the body. So when you put a shim in the neck, this is how I want you to look at shimming just with a stick back here. You're going to cut a little piece of paper and you're going to stick in there. Now your neck is making contact here, and it's making contact here. What's it doing in the center? Absolutely nothing. It's doing nothing. See the gap? That's what it's doing. You can't transfer the resonation of that neck to the body if it's touching in the front of the pocket. That's what you're doing. You're putting a wedge in there. So it's only going to touch at the front of the pocket and in the back of the pocket. It's going to be floating in air in the center. Now, if you have an extremely cheap guitar and the body is so stiff that you crank down the neck and it just compresses it into the body, then the shim didn't do anything anyway. So if the shim is going to work, it can't touch between the shim and the top of the neck. These will. It's a continuous shim. You lay it in the neck and you trim the face to where it fits back in the body. This is the way you do it. This is a much better way of doing it. And this is replaceable. It's not permanent. So if someone else wants to change the setup on that guitar, they can. Now, a lot of people say, why would I want to do that? I can just lower, okay? I can lower my bridge on the guitar and make the neck straight to the body, okay? Where this part of the neck is perfectly perpendicular with the guitar. Believe it or not, I don't like that. There's something, the guitar feels different. If I put a little reverse rake in this neck and pick the neck that way, and look at the strings to the body. See how the strings are higher on this side than this side? It's got a negative rake to it. That also allows me not to route the back of the body of the guitar. And I still have room to do up pulls because the bridge is setting up. Now, if you want a little bit more negative rake, like Gibson's use a lot of negative rake because of the archtop body. But Ibanez's, some other type of guitars, they might have zero rake where the strings are parallel. If it's a bolt-on neck, you can put a little rake in it, 0.5 degrees. Bring your bridge up. You might be surprised at how much different the guitar is going to feel. And that's something I really can't steer you in the right direction. You just got to put it together and see what you think. Don't do 0.5. If you want to know what it does, do a full degree. Just go for the gusto, and really make sure your bridge will go that far. But maybe go a full degree. You know, that's going to raise your bridge maybe 3/16 on this side. If you go 0.75, maybe a degree, something depends on your scale length. It should be 3/16, and see how you feels. It may feel like you're out in Pluto, and then it may change the feel of the guitar completely. Now, the reason I say go max, that way you can actually tell the difference. You can feel, okay, I see what it did, but maybe it's too much, and you might go, okay, I'll go in the center. If you go 0.25, you might not even notice it. You may not. You may, if you picked up guitars and never picked up that there was a rake angle, don't worry about it. Now, if you've looked back on it and you go, hey, Avery's right. Every guitar I seem to own has a negative rake. It's not straight. You might be like me and you like negative rake guitars. The guitars that are plowed out back here for the Floyd, they have very little rake. Like the Steve Vai Jim, it has very little rake on it. That's why they're routing out the back of the body, because the bridge is down tight. Just my little rant for the day, guys. That way you kind of get an idea of the parts that I order. I think that's pretty much everything. So that's the parts for Jupe's guitar. I'm gonna set this. I'm probably gonna end up kicking that all over the place. And this week I have been a busy little boy this week. I've been reviewing a guitar pretty much all week. And yes, I purposely removed the guitar from the room so no one could see it. I thought about playing it and seeing if you all would pick up that it was something new, and I'm like, nah, they're gonna know it's new. So I've removed the guitar to make it something special for us on next Thursday. We will be having a premiere on that review, and I've been thinking about it. I was working with Devastator last night on Skype. He was watching me do some edit work on the video, and I think Devastator has a lot better understanding now of what it takes to do the edit work that I do in my videos. Now, maybe not all content creators go to the extent that I go to, but I try to edit the videos and try to cover everything, and it takes a long time. This particular guitar was given to me by the local music store, and we did a complete disassemble on it. Took the neck off the guitar. We looked at the neck pocket. I pulled the electronics out of the guitar. We look at the back of the pickups. We look at the pots. We look at the jack. We look at the tremolo cavity. We look at the routes. We check the pickup Henrys, the ohms. We look at the neck radius. I check the fret height, the fret width. First fretted note, 12th, average intonation, string action height, general fit and finish, tuning keys, tremolo, saddle screws, and I think that's about everything I covered. Pretty much everything. And I also filmed, I did a couple things to the guitar because you know me, guys, I can't leave anything that's not perfect. So since they loaned me the guitar, I figured I'd go ahead and address 2 or 3 of the issues that I found on the guitar. It wasn't bad. Actually, it's probably one of the better guitars that we've had on the channel for quite some time. The fit and finish and fret leveling and everything, it's probably the second or third best guitar ever on the channel. I had 1 or 2 guitars that had 0 fret problems. I mean, perfect. This guitar had half of 1 fret that was just slightly high. Most people wouldn't have even touched it, but I went ahead and cleaned up the fret for Shenandoah Music, and I did a little extra dressing on the fret for them to give the guitar that little something something, and I re-intonated the guitar.
Jerry has a question.
Hold on 1 second, Jerry. And the reason I did all this is the first time they've ever done it. So if you were thinking about when Thursday comes, if you were thinking about purchasing this guitar, and I can't tell you what it is right now, I want you guys to be surprised. When you see it, you're either going to go, oh my gosh, ah, ah, or you're going to say, okay, let's see what Avery says about this because everyone else said it was a POS. The YouTube was not nice with this guitar. I'm going to tell you right now, YouTube was, with the guitar that I received, 100% wrong. It's a quality instrument. It's a good guitar. I would be very pleased to own this guitar, and there wouldn't be one part of me that would have any issue with the asking price of it. 100%. I have paid more for guitars and gotten a lot less, and a lot uglier and a worse setup from the factory. So the reason I bring this up, at the end of the video, if someone was thinking about buying this guitar, I've done probably over $200 worth of work on the guitar. Call them on Friday and look at it this way. Pay their price and they're going to charge you shipping, but I'm not charging them anything for the setup that I did on the guitar and the stuff that I did. So you're getting a free professional setup that went 100% through this guitar, and you're going to see it in the video. You're still going to save money, and it's going to be a great guitar. If you all aren't interested in it, then whoever locally buys that guitar is going to have one heck of an instrument. Now let's get back to Jerry's question. What's that ear? I got to take these things off. My ears are about ready to catch on fire. And I hear an echo with them things on. And I'm going to get some more Jupe juice, guys. I'm sorry, And I agree with Jupe's note. This stuff is yummy. Super yummy. Thank you so much, Jupe. So to make sure I got this, if I set the radius at the bridge to the radius at the last fret, my two center strings should be lower. Okay, let me go over one more time because it's a calculation. Do you have gauges, Jerry? Do you have like a 9.5, a 12-inch radius gauge, a 14? If you have gauges, the reason I'm saying, let's just say you got a 12-inch radius neck. That's pretty standard. Okay, and your string action height is 0.07, and your fret is 1.25 millimeters. You have to look at the distance from the fretboard to the bottom of the string. Okay, now look on both sides to your E, to whatever action height you want to use. It's going to change. You need to add that to the radius of the neck. So if the neck is 12, and I'm looking here, it's probably 3/16 of an inch on this Kramer. From the not the top of the fret, from the fretboard to the bottom side of the string. So that's going to tell me now I'm at like 12 3/16. Okay? So to compensate for that, when you put your gauge down here right next to the bridge, your two center strings, you need to remember that's going to be a little flatter radius. Okay, so when you put that on, since it's a little flatter, make sure that since it's flatter, your high E and your low E, your high E and low E should ring out. Okay, 100%. You should get just a little bit of your B and A, and your two center strings should fret out. I'm sorry, I had that backwards, guys. And what you're doing is you're increasing the radius. And it takes a little while to get used to it. That's why some people will say, well, it's an understring gauge. Okay? I don't have, if you look at an understring gauge, there's an arc to the gauge. And it's usually about 1/8 of an inch. So what they're trying to do there, they're trying to compensate that gauge for what I'm talking about. If your gauge is made that way, like the StewMac gauges, People go, I'm not going to spend that much money for a StewMac gauge. I can get the Amazon gauge, but if you look at the arm's really thick. So you can't take that gauge and put it under the strings and pull up. Does that kind of make sense? Let me go down and get one of the gauges and I'll explain it to you. It's the reason why you're going to spend 3 times the amount of money. And I can actually take Jupe's parts downstairs. Give me 1 second. So right here is my gauge set. And I've got a bunch of different sizes. So this is called a understring gauge set. This arm is compensated for the average player. Not stupid low action, not stupid high action. Is it perfect? No. But what they're doing, let me see. If I put this gauge under the neck, I can look at the distance on the 12th from the gauge to the string at the 12th. This one's very close. The string's a little higher. So I can take the gauge, instead of setting it on the neck this way, notice I'm setting it on the neck. If I take the gauge and now I pull it up and I use the top part of the gauge, the top part of the radius, and I bring that over to the bridge, that's going to be close. Now, if yours is really thick, you can't do that. So I found the StewMac ones are offset. That is a particular measurement. So you can put this and you can pull this up underneath the bridge. I didn't see which one this is. So this one is a 10, so I already know that that's not going to match my guitar. I don't know what the gauge is on this one. Let me grab a 12. Here's my 12. Let me put it on the neck. That's pretty close. So if I put the 12 under it, okay, and I'm going to pull up on the gauge, and I want to see if any of the strings ring out. And I'm just barely tugging on it, and I'm going to tug less each time. Now my high E rings out just a little bit, and all the other strings are muted, so I'm going to loosen a little more. This guitar is set up well. My high E and my low E ring out just a little bit, and the other strings are muted. So when you try to find a gauge, I know some of the cheaper gauges, this part is really, really thick, so you can't use it for that. So just spend the extra money and get the StewMac ones. And you can notice that this is offset. That's 1/8 of an inch, basically. Again, down gives you the neck radius, and up will give you a very close to offset radius for your bridge. And you just got to get used to pulling up on it. Okay? You can't like pull more on the high E or on the low E. You got to be able to put even pressure on the strings and then tap the strings and listen to how it vibrates, and then adjust your saddles. And once you do it a couple times, you'll get better and better at it. So that's one way of doing it. And nobody makes even the StewMac set. This one's the best one I found. And it's still missing. Like it's got 7.5 Let's see, 17. There's a 10. There's a 12. There's a 16. There's a 15. There's a 14 and a 20. And I know there's a 9.5 because I was just using it. It's on the workbench downstairs. But I'm still missing some gauges. It does not have 11, 13. I don't think it has 17. No, it does have 17. So I don't have 18 and I don't have 19. I've yet to find a company that makes a complete set. So if someone knows a good set that's made like this set with the offset made into it that has every pitch, every different angle, I would be curious for that. This is the StewMac set. These are quite old. These are stainless steel. So if you buy them, as long as you don't lose them, they'll outlast you. You'll never have to replace them. I want to say these were $35. And I know that sounds awful for radius gauges. I'm pretty sure it was $35. So that gives you a little. And if you watch my setup videos, you'll see me doing that, holding it on top or holding it on the bottom and compensating to get the radius. That doesn't mean that you have to go that way. Some people will deliberately flatten the radius on the strings. That way when they come across the neck, they're not picking up. So the distance off the fret, the center strings will be a little closer. Some people actually like that. And you don't have to worry about fretting out, because if you pull on the D or the G, it's at the top of the crown of the radius anyway. So as you pull either direction, the fret falls off.
Jerry said so my E's are probably a little low to be true to what you're saying.
Yeah, it does. Like I said, Jerry, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to set it up. I'm setting up for everybody, if that makes sense. So always pay attention to the way the guitar is set up when I receive it. Fender, they flatten theirs a little bit. If you mic a Fender and you use a gauge and you gauge under each string, you'll notice most Fenders, like Fender Americans, they'll be a little closer on the D and the G string than, let's say, the spacing under the high E and low E. The radius is a little flatter when they say, and I don't know why Fender does that, but they're good about doing it. It's just something I've noticed with Fender. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. I wanted to go over Jupe's goodies, and I actually still have more Jupe's goodies up here. I gotta take the rest of it downstairs. I couldn't carry it all down. I'm gonna set it right here. Is Jupe still in the group? Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And if you went somewhere, I'm liking this stuff. I am a diabetic though, and I read the container, Jupe. It's like 28 grams of sugar in the mix, plus milk actually has a lot of sugar. So I could probably only have one of these. That is awesome though. I do like that. And we've already checked. We can get it on Amazon. So I don't think it's a Rhode Island only thing. So we can pick some up. Ha! So what'd you guys do this week? Anything cool? Different? Anything? Oh, Jackie wants to know what I'm drinking. This is called Eclipse. And it is the state, what is it? State Rhode Island drink. It's a certified drink of Rhode Island.
Jupe said he's going to get me the vanilla flavor one.
Yeah, Jupe sent it to me. We got the little container, hun.
Mike said it's Jupe's Goody Juice.
Yeah, it's Jupe juice. You got the container? I'll grit the container so Jackie can see it.
Jupe's going to get the vanilla kind for me.
Oh. Nice, do you? See, we did it. Oh, you bought some.
Yeah, I bought some.
Okay, I got it right here. Here's the special delivery from Jupe. It's this stuff right here. And his little note said it's yummy. It is yummy. You got to keep it refrigerated once you open it.
It's like coffee milk.
Yeah, it's like coffee milk. It's like drinking like a chocolate drink with coffee.
It's syrup for milk.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm into stuff. Of course, I like hot cocoa. So, and he knows I like coffee. So he was probably like, well, he likes hot cocoa and he likes coffee, so he's going to love this stuff. So if you guys want to support Rhode Island, it's their official drink. It is super yummy. Here you go, hon. He says you can make a milkshake out of it. Linnell has said that she knows that would be good. She's already like, a milkshake. So again, thanks, man. That was a cool, pleasant surprise when I got home and saw that. I'm like, what's this stuff?
Devastator said he restrung a couple of his guitars.
Devastator, you're more than welcome to come over to the house. I have I have 3 guitars right now with broken strings on them. And I haven't had time to restring them. I've been working on the review and then working on Jupe's guitar. So I haven't had time to actually get to my guitar to work on. I got to put strings on the Yamaha Pacifica. I got to put strings on the Kramer Night Swan. And there's another one that broke a string. Oh, the PV Vandenberg broke a string. There's 4 guitars. I don't remember what the other one is. So that's why I've been playing the gray Kramer so much, because I'm getting low on guitars with good strings on them. I was going to play my Firefly tonight, and I plugged it in. I should get that, guys. Let's hear this thing. And just so you guys know, I am not a Firefly nut. This was the worst guitar. Well, I won't say it was the worst guitar the channel's ever reviewed. The worst guitar the channel has ever reviewed was a Leo James. And yeah, it was pretty rough. So this is a Firefly FFMN with the hot rodded bridge. I did a whole video series on this guitar. Really cool guitar. But it was horrible from the factory. So let me see if I can turn it on here. It would help to plug it in, wouldn't it? I'm sitting here going, why don't I have a signal? Alright, so this is the hot rodded FFN. And yeah, they are the stock pickups. And this was right when Firefly was getting a lot of hits for pickup quality. And this was the first guitar, in my opinion, that had decent pickups. They are a little muddy on high gain. Simple layout. It just has a volume. So that's our bridge. This is both pickups. Let's go up to our neck position. It's a cool guitar. I did a lot of work on this guitar. You guys would have to go back and watch the videos. I reshaped the back of the neck. We changed the tuners. In reality, there's not much on this guitar that I would consider would still Firefly, because I ended up re-leveling all the frets, recrowning the frets, polishing the frets. The only, like I said, the only thing stock on the guitar is the pickups. And I was going to put better pickups in it, and then I just kind of lost interest and we moved on to other guitar reviews. But they're not horrible. And I'm not running a lot of gain tonight. I've been trying to gradually decrease my gain. But it has a decent sound. Back when I bought this guitar, I think it was $229, and then they went on sale for like $189. So I ended up paying top dollar for it back when I bought it. Now I believe they're back up to $229 or $239 when they release them again. And you can be quite abusive on this tremolo. Nicholas has to go. All right, Nicholas, thanks for coming to the live stream. Tonight was kind of different. We kind of went over parts and stuff. We're just kind of goofing off. It's our standard live stream, just chilling out and hanging out. But appreciate you coming in and joining the chat for a little bit. Hope to see you this coming Saturday night. So I don't know what you guys think about it. I don't think I've actually played this guitar on the live streams before. This was really the guitar that I started the channel with. This was the first video that I ever did, and the first group of videos modifying guitars. Like I said, I never changed the pickups. I think these pickups are good enough, if that makes sense. I think sometimes we lose the fact that, like this guitar ended up being about $550 with all the parts. I don't want to even think about how many man hours that I put in this guitar getting it to this playability. Who is it? Ted's got to go. All right, Ted, man, thanks for coming in, Ted. I greatly appreciate you coming in and talking and chatting with everybody, man. It makes me feel good when I see other channels coming in. But anyway, what I was saying is I think sometimes we lose, the point in the budget guitar. Sometimes we're just wanting an inexpensive guitar to beat up. And this guitar ended up being $550 in parts by the time I put all the parts on it and purchased the guitar. Plus about, I'm going to say, now granted, the first group of videos I did was taking this guitar in its stock form, making as good as it could. Then I took it apart again. If I did everything straight through, I think I could do it in probably 40 working hours. Everything that I did to the guitar. So this is not a guitar that I would say, unless they've improved the quality of it, that I would say is really worth doing that to. I think that you can get an Axis made by Sterling in the $450 price range. It may not have the nicer bridge, but it's going to be a better playing guitar. I'm not sure if Sterling makes the Axis with the Floyd Rose or not, but if you're looking for something like this, I know the Axis from Sterling's a decent guitar. And Firefly may have improved the quality of this one since this one was made. This was like the second production run. I may have to order another one just to see if they're okay now. But this one was pretty rough. Bad frets. A horrible tremolo. It would not stay in tune. As soon as you touched the bar, it just went right square out of tune. Now it does hold tune. It holds tune well. So you can tell the guitar. I'm really gonna try to knock it out of tune. Let's see how bad. It's out just a fraction. But that's really beating the piss out of it. It's not bad. It's out a fraction. Tried that twice and I misfretted the exact same note both times. All in all, I'd say the guitar turned out really well.
Is the back of it contoured?
Is the what?
Back of it contoured.
Yes, it does have a belly carve. And I think this one, I'm not sure if the access from Sterling, I think the access from Sterling is done this way too. I think if you get the Music Man one, which is like $1,600, I think they did do an extended cutaway right here where they beveled this. But it does have the rear contour here. And now let's check out the stupid heavy duty block. Look at that massive monster. That is an L block. That's a 40 millimeter. And look at the claw. Check out the claw.
Jerry has another question.
Look at the heavy duty claw, guys. Don't think the claw doesn't make a difference. That's a solid, look at how thick that claw is. It's like an 1/8 inch thick, solid brass with a bonded ground. And those are the Black Floyd Rose noiseless springs. Stupid heavy duty. Another question I have with the Firefly is if they use metric or do they use radius gauges. They do use metric, okay? Most of the stuff in shops use metric. You know, they're made for the American market, so they're using metric to the closest imperial, if that makes sense. So whatever, you can't like, I'll do decimal equivalents in imperial, like 1 point, or 0.125, and that's decibel equivalent. You can really easily go from metric to imperial. So their machines are just set up all in metric, but metric's much more precise than imperial. So you have 10, even if you only go into millimeters, you have 10 millimeters in a centimeter. It takes 25 millimeters to make an inch. So that's 25 segmented parts to an inch. Okay? We only use 16. Okay, now that's standardized, 16th. They go to a millimeter. So when you start breaking into 0.5 and 0.1 millimeters, that's 10 out of a millimeter. So that's 250 slices out of 1 inch. that is easily converted. When you get into Imperial, you even get into that 128th of an inch, it becomes impossible. Well, I'm not saying impossible. It's a mathematical nightmare to do the equations. So what they do is they do equivalence. So it'll be close. You don't have to worry about that. The metric is a far superior measuring system over Imperial.
Kurt said China uses it's the close enough measurement.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I'm a firm believer in metric. I use Imperial a lot at work. But when I work in AutoCAD and when I work in programming CNC machines running CAM and Mastercam, the first thing I do is convert everything over to metric equivalents, because the machines, everything where everything works better in metric, if that makes sense. It just does. It's easier to do the math on it, and no one picks up on it. That's why it's 3 cm or it's 2 cm. We're starting to see it in granite and stuff like that out on job sites, because metric's just easier to work with.
Jerry says it's a 25.4.
Yeah, it's something 25.4.
Well, see, he said that apparently on his Firefly, they claim it's a 9.5 to 14, but none of his trees fit.
9.5 to what?
14, but none of his trees fit.
Yeah, sometimes what you'll notice with Firefly, Jerry, you look at your gauge and see if it's fitting really nice in the center and then off where there's a gap on either end. A lot of your cheaper guitars, when they block sand it, they do more block sanding on the sides. So what you end up with is not a true radius, but you end up with an ellipse. The Jackson over here, the 26.5 scale length, that guitar does not have a true radius neck on it. When I put a gauge on it, it fits pretty tight. Right at the top E, it drops off when it goes to the B. I mean, there's a significant drop in change in radius. And it does the exact same thing. When it hits the B string at the bottom, the high B, then goes to the E. As soon as it hits that high B, you'll see a change in the radius in the neck. It's an ellipse, so it's doing this.
Renee wants to know if that Firefly is for sale.
Actually, this guitar has been for sale for quite some time. I just don't. We had it on Marketplace for a while, and I had a gentleman that wanted to trade me. What was that thing? It was an N4?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
I think it's an N4. It was a really expensive guitar. It had this really strange metal half moon plate on the back of it with this strange access cut. It was a Washburn. I think it was a Washburn N4. And I know the guitar was well worth what I was asking for this guitar. And the guitar played nice. It just was so strange. I said, you know what? I just can't sell this guitar for that Washburn. But yeah, it is for sale. Yeah, this was the guitar that started the channel. If you want to know the history on this guitar, go back and watch the very first videos. I did a group of videos on taking just the stock, everything stock, and trying to make this guitar as good as I possibly could using all stock parts, not changing any parts, just cleaning it up and trying to make it work better. Then we took the guitar back apart and we went field crazy with parts and hot rod stuff and fancy tuners. These are Hipshot tuners. So these are Hipshot locking tuners. Really nice tuners. And then it has a Goth locking nut. Then it has the custom hardened plate. Now this plate here is not a Floyd plate. This was an aftermarket company for the Goth 96 something plate, which is basically the Floyd Rose. I can't remember if this was Cash or Music Lily, but this is the hardened plate. And then it has the Cash saddles, the upgraded block, the heavy duty claw, Floyd Rose springs, Floyd Rose turbo bar.
Mikey said that's the video he subbed to the channel.
Yeah, this is an awesome guitar. We're gonna get back to doing more. We kind of lost track. We haven't done any repair videos. So here soon you're gonna see Jupe's guitar. We're doing a full hot rod on Jupe's guitar, and we actually have some other video, another video that I shot footage on beginning of this week on a guitar that I did a fret repair and an end dressing on. It was just a quick video and a quick setup. So if you got one bad fret and you just want to fix that one fret, not doing a whole fret level, you just want to fix one high fret, you're going to want to check that video out. It should be out in the next week or two, and it's a full setup video. And then of course we'll have Jupe's video. Now it's going to be a full fret level, crowning and dressing. And then it's also going to be how to build a hot rodded bridge, a really nice Floyd Rose bridge. And of course then we're going to do an electronics video because he sent me a pickup for it. So we're going to have to do some wiring and install a Pure Joan jack in it. And then we'll do a setup video on it. So that's all coming. And then we have a new review for next Thursday, guys. And that's courtesy of Shandor Music. So going to be a busy next month as long as I can stay on point and get it all done. But I know the review video will be next Thursday unless something catastrophic happens. And of course we'll do the live show on Saturday. And it'll probably be about 2 weeks before you see one of Jupe's videos. Because I at least want to get enough information. I'm not going to make super long videos on Jupe's because I think we need to touch base on, let's learn how to tape off the neck properly. If you haven't seen any of my videos, I'm going to go through it, guys. Until you learn to tape off the neck that way and peel it off in one piece, you're wasting your time. So I'm going to keep showing that. I think it's an awesome trip. So we're going to learn how to tape off the neck properly, and we're going to level the frets, then we're going to crown the frets, and we're going to dress the frets, and we're going to polish the frets. And that's going to be one video just on that procedure. Then I'll do one video on building the bridge. Then we'll do one video on doing the wiring. That's regrounding to the new claw, doing the new pickup, checking, make sure his pots, his potentiometers are okay, if they're not scratchy. I want to check all that stuff out while we're in there. Now's the time to fix it. And then putting all that stuff in, and then put it back together. And we'll do a setup video on that and get it back out to Jupe. So I think that would be better than doing one 4-hour long video. And that way we can break it up into a couple different tutorials. So I want to get back to doing some of that stuff. And there's been a couple people that's asked about doing some custom guitars. I think if we're going to do something custom, I would prefer to pick a company that already does decent necks and decent bodies. Now, you can get from Stratosphere, you can get Fender necks. They have EVH necks. You got Warmorth makes, or Warmarth, or whatever that company is. They make decent necks. You can buy a decent neck for $100, $150. And then dress it and clean it up the way you want. And then if you need to make a body's pretty easy to make. But you can buy a body and then do some hot rodded stuff. It's still semi-custom, guys. For me to sit there and program a CNC machine to cut out necks and do all that work, it's just not worth it. Even if I did offer custom guitars like that, if I was able to make one a month, that would be a miracle. So that means I would run 12 necks, 10 necks in a year, and it would take, I'm going to guess, 3 or 4 prototype runs to get it right, to get all the offsets right. Same with any neck pocket, to get your offset rights and your cutter compensation correct. Excuse me, guys. So for me, it's just really not worth it. It's not worth, devoting the time to get the machine to that kind of tolerance, if that makes sense. But we have been thinking about it. So I'm looking at the chat here. We got resolution.
Yep. You got Niles.
All right, resolution. You're saying on the back screw back here that holds the cup onto the plate. Is that the screw that you're talking about? Because if that's the screw you're talking about, if you go back and watch my video, whenever you get new parts like that, the first thing I do is I take rubbing alcohol and I clean all the threads on the screws and inside the holes. Okay? Take some blue Loctite. Once you get there's cutting oil on it. So if you don't get that cutting oil off, one, it's going to act as a lubricant. It's going to get loose. And two, if you put blue Loctite on that cutting oil, it's not going to stick. So everything that you take apart, that's new, it's new. It should be clean. No, it's not. It's probably got cutting oil on it. Wipe everything down with either acetone or something like that. I use alcohol. It works well, evaporates quick. When you put that nut on the bottom of the cup, take a toothpick, put a little blue Loctite on it, and stick it down inside and get it inside the threads. Doesn't take much. And then pick a little bit on the nut on the Allen screw itself. And then when you put that screw up through here, lean on it pretty good and tighten it. After 2 or 3 hours, that thing's never going to come apart. It's not going to come apart down there. Now, if you're talking about this one, all Floyd Roses do that. It doesn't matter. I've yet to see any Floyd Rose that this doesn't do that on. Sometimes it's caused because you've got too much tension, okay? And when you move the bar, it catches on the nut, and then the nut spins. If it is doing that, okay, if your nut is doing that, and you can get the nut off the bar, let's take this one off. If you can get that to spin around the bar, great. Most of the time you can't. But come in here and look at your turbo bar. See that washer that's right there on top of the pins? Make sure that washer right there that's on top of the 2 pins is lubricated. They make what's called dry lube. Okay, it's not sticky. That's why it's called dry lube. Spray a little dry lube right there and then get it on the top side of this nut so this thing can spin freely. And you don't want to feel any friction when this thing is down on this and you pull down on the nut. Mine is super smooth. So pull down your nut, make sure it's smooth. If it's not, you got some dirt in there. Clean it, pull this up and spray dry lube right on top of that top washer where the pins are.
He says it's the front one, the one you twist on by hand.
Yeah, it's this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. This is the one you're talking about, right? Resolution? It's got to be one of the two.
He said the back one stays no problem. It's the front one.
Yeah. Try doing my little trick there. Pull this up. Put some dry lube here and make sure there's no grit or grime. And make sure that this is spinning freely on the bar. When you pull down on that, it doesn't bind. See, I'm pulling down on it. Make sure that it should move like butter. If not, you have grit and dirt in there. It needs to be cleaned. So once you get it clean, pull it up. And you can go to Woodcraft. I think Lowe's has it. It's called dry lube. And put a little dry lube on that. And the reason I say that, it's not going to collect dirt and grime and crud. We use it in tooling. But it's a really good lubricant. Don't use WD-40. Use dry lube. Put this back down inside there. Okay? And then tighten it. Now, if you never remove the bar, you can. If you don't ever remove it, you can put just a dab of blue Loctite on that. When I say a dab, just put a dab, because you'll still be able to move it and it'll tighten up the threads a little bit. And it's just a dab. Especially if it's a guitar that never leaves your house and you're not taking the bar on and off, you can do that. But I would try the dry lube first and make sure it's good and clean. See, if I really tighten mine, see, mine still works. And I have tightened up out of that. Now for me, that's too tight. I like mine to kind of fall by itself. Like that. Now some people don't like that. They think that's just too loose. But that's how I like mine.
He said that's great info, my man. Thanks for that. I will try it.
Yeah, try it. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. It's a Floyd Rose. It's not a Kramer. Not a Kramer. Not a Kahler. I'm sorry. The Floyd Rose has always been a secondary tremolo, in my opinion, to the Kahler 2700. Not a cam-based Kahler, but the true fulcrum-based Kahler is a superior bridge. And it's just the little things like that. That's why Floyd Rose went to the push-in bar. And I don't care for the push-in bar. They're great when you put new O-rings and the little plastic pieces on it. Man, them things are sweet for about 6 months. And then they get to where it just flops around. And then you got to put new little gaskets on it and the little plastic pieces. Then it works great for a couple months and then it just turns to poop again. They just haven't been able to sort it out. And this one is the best bar I've found, the turbo bars. And it's still, like you're saying, it still has that dreadful, problem with that nut. But I've found a little dry lube on it and make sure it's clean. And that's about all you can do with it. If you're a fan of the push-in ones, they work good. Just remember, it's not gonna last. That's the problem. When you order the bar or the push-in type, make sure you order the 2 little plastic white nylon pieces and the black rubber O-ring. Just buy extras because it's going to eat them up. Maybe every 5 or 6 months, stick new ones on it. And if you're willing to do that, I think it's okay. I know that sometimes under hard playing, and when you go to pull up on it, sometimes when they get wore, the bar just pops out of the tremolo. I've heard that. I just know they work well when they're new, but they don't stay feeling that way very long. That nylon wears pretty quick. And the stock bar is the worst, especially with the licensed Floyd Rose ones. Those things are horrible. When I say horrible, they're just horrible. There's so much slop on them, and then the nut. When you go to unthread this nut, it's like, and you can feel it dragging because the thread pitch isn't right. It's like you're turning it, and it's hard to even turn. It's not even tight because the thread pitch is wrong. The PV licensed Floyd Rose bridges were like that, and some of the Jackson bridges, the Jackson Floyd Rose bridges, take the nut and move it back and forth, and it just feels like sandpaper in there. But it's a Floyd Rose. The Kahler does not have that problem. The 2700 and the Spiders don't have that problem. They also don't have the shim issue problem that we were talking about earlier. And the 2700 Kahler, you do not have to worry about your spring spacing because every one of these saddles you can move this direction and this direction and this direction and this direction. Every direction that saddle can be moved and located. I mean, you can be off, believe me, you can be off 3/16 of an inch on your center line on a Kahler 2700, and you can still get the saddles on that bridge to shift to compensate for a bad guitar. You can ask me how I know. I've set some up that the neck pocket was completely wrong and misdrilled for here, and you can move them saddles. That was an amazing bridge. It's such a shame that Floyd Rose took it upon themselves to make sure that Kahler couldn't produce the bridge. And everyone says, oh, it was a licensing issue. No, it was not. If it was a licensing issue, Kahler should have been able to produce that bridge and put licensed by Floyd Rose. Well, he couldn't. That tremolo, he said, no, you can't make it. No, you can make this bridge. Here's the design and put licensed by Floyd Rose. But he could not make the 2700.
Renee wants to know, how are the Wilkinson tremolo arm performance?
Wilkinson. The Wilkinson has two different type tremolos. The Wilkinson bridges that Yamaha uses, I think the tremolo bars, the push-in ones, that's what my Yamaha is. It's still working well. I don't have many playing hours on that guitar. The tremolo feels smooth. It's a great tremolo, but I can't tell you if the bar is going to have longevity because again, it's one of those push-in bars that have the white nylon. So the guitar was a Christmas present from my funny honey, and I do like the guitar. Right now it needs strings, but it's not a guitar that I play that often. I would probably say it may have 20 hours of playtime on it. So it doesn't have enough playtime on it for me to say the tremolo bars on the Wilkinsons hold up. My thought would be it's going to be very similar to the Floyd Rose because those are wear item parts. The nylon and stuff is designed to have a lubricant in the nylon so it spins freely and also adds rigidity to the bar. So it's going to be a wear item, just like brake shoes on your car. So I would say you should be able to get at least 6 or 7 months of hard use before you got to replace it. You might get more, but it's a wear item, piece. So that's the only thing I could say about it. The Kahler works so well because it's a thread and a socket. That's the advantage to the Kahler. It's using both, and it has a locking screw because the 2700 and the Spider, when you push down on the bar and rotate it, it turns the bridge into a fixed bridge. There's a cam underneath this section of the bridge behind the fulcrum, and it has a hook that comes around and it grabs the block, and it turns it into a fixed bridge guitar. So then when you grab the bar and you push down and you rotate, the cam arm on the back rotates forward between the split in the block and allows the tremolo to move. It's an ingenious design. The Spider's a good system too. The Kahler Spider's not a bad, but the 2700 and the 2700 Killer, those were the bridges that he's no longer allowed to make.
Kurt said, as far as I'm concerned, Kahler non-cam bridges are far superior to Floyd Rose.
Yes, the non-cam bridges are the killer. That's what I'm going to say. The 2700 and the 2710 originals were the best. Then he did an upgrade where they upgraded the posts. I have both. I have the original 2700 with the small post, and the post did bend. They were run for about 6 months. He knew there was a problem. He sent out new posts to everybody. He sent me new posts to my guitar. I just never put them in. And then I have another production run, exact same company, that has the Kahler, that has the upgraded posts. Okay, but it still has the smooth cups back here where the string goes through. You do not have to cut the ball ends off of a Kahler. Everyone talks about the Floyd Rose speed loader. It's not a good system. The Kahler had it. It threaded through, and as you spun this nut, a half sleeve comes across the saddle piece, and it acts as a lock. And it locks the string right at the fulcrum. Okay? The bridge point, the access point of this radius. Where the Floyd, the locking block is back here. That string comes off the locking block, it kinks the string, then comes up, hits the radius, and then goes across. Okay, where it hits the block, it has to travel another 1/8 of an inch to the top of the radius of the saddle. That's where the Kahler locks, because the half moon circle that the string comes out of comes across and bites into the back of the saddle, and the string comes right out and over the top of the saddle. The string can't move. It can't move. And even if it did slip, the ball end is inside the cup back here, so it's only going to slip to the point to where the ball end makes contact with the housing. So what I would do, I wouldn't tighten this back here all the way up. I left it semi-loose, fed the string through, up, and I brought the string up 2 steps below tune. Okay? Then I locked that cam on the back that brought this piece forward into the saddle to lock that screw in place. I knew that ball end was one in the back of that cup solid, and I knew that there was no gap in here, and I was to pressure. Okay? It was just I don't have one out here. I've shown the 2700 before. They're stupid expensive now if you can find them. And nobody wants to route a guitar for it because people are like, well, you can't get the bridge anymore. I know where there's 3 or 4 setting right now, brand new in the box. Original 2700 killers. They're asking, 450, 500 a piece for them. Is that hateful? No, it's not a hateful price, but it's not a great price either. I mean, this is new old stock. They're just sitting on a shelf, but he knows what he has, so he doesn't. And what gets me, they're not the pretty ones. They made a solid black one, then they made a chrome one. This is the what I call the redheaded stepchild. This is the chrome base plate, and the side saddles are black, and the centerpiece is chrome. So it's kind of like a black chrome mixture bridge. It's a peculiar color. They also did a blue and a red that way, and they're even harder to find, the blue and the red ones. I prefer just the pure silver ones or the pure black ones, but these are the silver base plate with the black accents. I should probably just break down and buy a couple of them. And they are superior bridges. The drawback is when you call Mr. Kaler on the phone, it's been a long time since I've spoke to Mr. Kaler directly, probably at least 10 years ago. He has no interest. Plus, he's on Rex Labs channel or something, or Rex Lab went to work for him. He just can't reproduce that. The parts count and the complexity of the parts in the bridge, it just costs too much to machine the parts. No one wants to spend $700 or $800 for a bridge.
Renee said, "What about the Kaler Steeler?"
Yeah, that's the other. That's what he makes now, the Kaler Steeler, and he makes another one. They're both solid bridges. I have a Kaler Spider on my other guitar, and the Spider's a good bridge, and the Steeler's a good bridge. I think this. I don't remember which one's above which. I think the Spider is the better bridge over the Steeler. I don't really know, to be honest with you, which one's better. But the one you're looking for is the Killer. If you can find a Kaler Killer, that's the bridge. But the Steeler or the Spider, both of them are great bridges. And he makes parts for both of those. And he does still have some 2700 and 2710 and killer parts, but it's whatever's still on his shelf.
Kurt said when you call Kaler, Rex answers the phone most of the time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Rex went to work for him. He wasn't there back when I spoke to Mr. Kaler, because I had called him about parts for one of mine, and I asked him if he had some, and he told me that he could throw one together for me if I was interested in it. He had enough spare parts, and when I called him back, I said, "Well, I'm just going to take the parts for right now, but I appreciate the offer." And at the time, it was going to be like $400 for all the parts to make a brand new 2710. I look back on it, I should have done it. But at the time, all I needed was a couple little PC parts. So I just bought the PC parts and repaired the bridge that I had. And that bridge has never had the knife ends done on it. And I played the snot out of that guitar. That came on a PV Nitro Active. And I played that guitar. It was my primary guitar for 20 years. And when I say I beat it up, I beat the snot out of that guitar. And it still has the factory knife edges on it. They've never been cleaned. They've never been touched. That's the difference between hardened metal made in the United States, forged and tempered properly. That's the difference. Not even Shaler and the original Floyd Roses had that kind of longevity. I think the original Floyds that were made here in the United States, I think they're good products. I know there's still guitars, Charvels out there, and some Kramers out there that have them. The knife edges are still good. I think the Kaler was just a step above that one. And once the '90s hit, that all went out the window. When when Floyd Rose stopped only with Kramer, because you could only get a Floyd on a Kramer. As soon as he opened up the door to the other guitar manufacturers, the quality went out the window because they stopped paying attention to how hard the common metal pieces were. Some were good, some weren't. They were outsourcing here, outsourcing there. So then it went out the window. But if you've got one from an original Kramer, like an 84, 85, 86, 87 Kramer, you've got the bee's knees when it comes to a Floyd. I think it was 88 or 89 is when they started outsourcing some of the parts. Hard to believe that you could buy an American Jackson in the 80s for 1200. Yeah, when I called Jackson, they wanted 1600 for the guitar that I wanted. That would have been probably 88 or 89 for the guitar I wanted. I didn't get it. I ended up getting the Vandenberg instead. I got a PV Vandenberg, which I'm very happy that I got the PV Vandenberg. The Vandenberg is a kick butt guitar. You know, going back to Kaler, I've reached out a couple times to him and said, look, I'm a big fan. I can prove it. I have, 6 or 7 guitars with your bridge on it, and I talk about your products. But the Rex guy, he said, well, I'll look at your channel. And evidently the fish on this side of the pond aren't big enough for Rex. And that's sad because how many times I called Kaler and spoke to Dave personally. And he was just like me and you. He was just an open, down to the earth. He would sit and talk with you, about stuff. Hopefully they don't lose that. Hopefully Rex can retain that one-on-one, we're just a small shop attitude. Hopefully it doesn't stray too far from what Mr. Kaler started. But he's getting old. He needed somebody that loved the product. Hopefully Rex is that person. I hope, because it is and always has been an American-made product. Kaler has never outsourced anything. There were some clone stuff that went out for a little while, and it's a clone if it's anything metric on it. All Kaler products are Imperial everything. Every screw, every nut, every thread pitch, it's all Imperial. They have never used anything metric on a true Kaler. Yeah, honey?
Jerry said they're back in the States now. No more outsourcing. They're made in North Carolina.
Yeah, well, they had to. They didn't have a choice because Shaler was like, nope. So that was a whole debacle. And that started happening about a year ago when they started outsourcing a lot of the substandard seconds to these budget guitar companies. And then they sold so much product, they were like, well, the heck with it. We're just going to outsource the whole thing to China. And we'll just, instead of getting, screwed, we're going to say, okay, give us $5. So just stick our name on it and we'll give you a license number. So that's where this new $50 Floyd Rose tremolo come from.
Devastator says Dean Zelensky is that way too. He'll talk your ear off.
Yeah. The Zion guitars, yeah. I think I mentioned Zion last stream. Let me put this guitar back up. Zion would pretty much do anything you wanted. If you called Zion, they would set it up for a Kaler, a Floyd, or at the time there was another bridge. I can't remember. It wasn't the Washburn Wonder Bar. There was another bridge that was pretty popular, but there again just didn't grab on. It was a little kooky. It wasn't the Wonder Bar. I can't remember which one that was. But in the mid '80s, everyone was trying to reinvent the wheel when it come to look at the Ibanez bridge. Before it may have been Godot, but that was a very solid bridge that they put on the Roadstar 2s, but it was very bulky. So when you put your hand back to do your mutes, the saddle's raked up for the adjusters. You know, if they would have just refined that a little bit more, that was a really good bridge. Then I don't know if Godot made that bridge for them or if that was an actual Ibanez product. Hey, honey, can I have a drink or something?
What do you want?
I don't know, glass of tea or I'm out of Juke juice and I'm out of White Monster. I'm really screwed now. Ha! Uh-oh. What to do, Jerry? Get it out every 3 minutes. Oh, is that calling for a break time? Jerry wants a break. Jerry wants recess time.
It's almost 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's okay, Jerry. I'll be all right for a little bit more. I think we can make it. We can make it a little bit more. Jerry's very concerned because I still have to get up and go to work. So I'm on East Coast time, so it's 10 o'clock where I'm at. Low pros? Yeah, I've seen the Floyd Low Pro. I've wanted to try it. And another reason why I like the Killer, it's already a Low Pro design. The bridge is completely flat on the back side. So it gives you a nice spot for your palm to sit on. And you can just roll it back and forth. They covered all the bases with that bridge. When I guess it was about 4 years ago when I started playing again because I took a very long break from playing music. I wanted to buy a new guitar, and everything I went and looked at had Floyd Roses, and it took me, I would say, 2 years to readjust to playing to the Floyd Rose. And there's still times where I want to slide my hand back and I hit the back side of the Floyd Rose because I'm used to that longer Kaler flat spot so I can roll my hand back and forth. But I am getting used to the Floyd. I can see some of the points some of the people said on the Floyd versus the Kaler. But I still think the Kaler was just a superior bridge all the way around. And they've had 30 years to improve the Floyd Rose, and they haven't. And that's another thing I say. They haven't tried to improve it. All they do is say, hey, look, you want the original 84? Well, the 84 had problems. It wasn't the best bridge. But they haven't innovated, I guess. Now you got companies like Sophia. They make a really nice tremolo with what's called a global tuner. If you're not familiar with that bridge company, look them up. It's a solid bridge. But again, the saddles kind of kick up on the guitar on a kooky angle. It's a strange looking thing. But he does make the global tuner piece, the block that fits under the guitar, for a Floyd Rose. He does not make the global tuner for the 2700 or the Spider. I did email him about 2 years ago about it, and he said if more people called, he would engineer a block that would fit the Kalers. Now, whether or not that's ever transpired, I don't know. But I think if you took a Floyd Rose low profile, okay, and then put the Sophia global tuner mechanism on the bottom of it, it may be a cool tremolo. It may have the benefits of the Sophia and the low profile design of the Kaler and still have parts availability for today. I've never put one together like that. And I would be curious if the Sophia block would work on the low pro, because I don't think it says that on the website. I think it says original Floyd Rose and FR1000. So I haven't looked at the low pro to see if everything underneath is exactly the same or not. I know the tension spring is different because of the way the saddle's made for the low profile, because you have this separate screw that locks the block, okay, and then the tuning piece sets back to make it set low. That's why it's called a low pro. That might be something that somebody wants to give them a call and find out. That would be a cool experiment. Put the Sophia global tuner system on a low profile Floyd. Now it's Tim. I'm reading the comments here, guys. If I've missed your all's comments, I really apologize. Because I only look over occasionally. Linnell and Jerry and Devastator will tell you when I get off on a tangent, I just go full steam ahead on that tangent. Sometimes I don't even pay attention to the chat, and I apologize. I was just looking at ST Kaler's website, and they have a top mount model. Yeah, the cam bridges are a completely different animal. And everyone talks about the war between Kaler and Floyd. That was the war. Did you like the cam tremolo or did you like the fulcrum based tremolo? I had people that I knew, they loved the top mount cam Kaler bridge. Back then you did have to route like a little pocket for the spring mechanism to set down in, but I always thought they were a little squishy feeling. You know, they didn't feel firm enough. They were very like spongy or squishy. Now, if you call Kaler, they have different spring sets that you can put in that, and you can change the material of the cam. There's all kinds of things that you can do to that bridge that change the tonal quality and the feel of the bridge. I don't think I ever felt one with harder springs, but in the stock form, I just thought they were a little squishy. If you go back to Kaler's website, look for the Spider or the Steeler. It's a fulcrum base tremolo like the Floyd Rose that rides on 2 pins. That's going to give you a more firmer feel, per se. Yeah, Kaler also had 2 different, I think that's what Kurt's talking about. Are you talking about that bar that come up and had that big flat square block on it? It was like a little stubby arm. I never got to play one of those. I saw pictures of them. And something else with the Kaler, there was no right or left hand. Okay, if you look at the cam on a Kaler, there's a thread in the center where you can thread the tremolo right in the center of you can thread the bar right in the center of the tremolo. Or you can thread the bar on the top or the bottom. So it didn't matter if it was a left or a right hand. It's the same bridge. That was something else. That kept us parts count down. It was designed for either orientation. So if you wanted to set your right-handed guitar up, you could put the tremolo bar on the top of the bridge, up on the low E, and let it hang. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. And you could also, they had a hole in the center, and I think they had a model with an offset hole where it was in between the B, above the B string, I think there was a hole where you could set it. They did some really strange things, catering to certain artists. Say, I want to move this, I want to move that.
Niles has to go.
Oh, Niles has got to go. Thanks, Niles, for coming. I really appreciate everyone coming and returning each week for the live stream. It makes me feel good when you guys come each week. It does. This was kind of just a chat night for everybody tonight. I had a Kaler cam trim on a BC Rich bass. It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, I never cared for them. I had a lot of friends that had them, and I just thought they were real spongy feeling. I had played the Kaler Killer, and before that I was running the Ibanez bridge, whichever one that kooky bridge was that they put on the Roadstar series, which was a solid bridge. There was nothing, I never had any tuning stability issues with that bridge. I never did play the Wonder Bar I think that was a Washburn thing. And I've heard hit and miss stories about the Wonder Bar. Some people said it was great. Some people said it was just a pile of junk. I don't know. I never got to play one to find out. I always heard he was a asshole, but never seen any proof of it. He's a
They're talking about Ying, what's his name? Ying Wei Malstein?
oh, NV Malmsteen. Yeah, I've heard the exact same thing that he was kind of rude to some of his other musicians that went on tour with him. Um, I don't know. When you're like he is, um, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt, I guess. There's always musicians like that, but I think on the scale of being approachable, he's probably less approachable than most well-known guitar players. I would probably agree with that. You can tell in some of his videos that he does. I could be completely wrong. He might be down to earth and would sit down and have a beer with you. I don't know. I've never been within 100 miles of him to my knowledge.
Devastator said I'll send you a Wonder Bra, Avery.
A Wonder Bra. No, not a Wonder Bra. A Wonder Bar. Or a Wonder Tremolo or whatever that. Yeah, it was called a Wonder Bar, I think. Yeah, you gotta move the A between the B and the R there. And then we're set. Ha! I don't even want to know. Yeah, I know that he's a big guy. And he's put on a lot of weight. If you look in the mid late 80s, early 90s, he was really thin. And you look at him now, he's pretty big. I don't think he's as big as was it Zakk Wylde. If you look when Zakk Wylde first joined Ozzy Osbourne, he was real skinny and tall too. Now he's really big. So he kind of bloomed out too, but I think he did a lot of body weightlifting and stuff. So now he's just getting thick. Yeah. He looks like a freaking Viking. That's the side chops that he has that comes way back forward. That's what that's about. Yeah, he's got what I call the Elvis shark fin sideburns that come all the way forward and then come back. Yeah, he's been sporting that look now for about 2 or 3 years, which is kind of strange. Jupe said he's never played a Kahler. I'm looking back up at the comments. Yeah, depending on which one you play, Jupe, you may, if you pick up a cam one and you're used to a Floyd, you're probably going to say that it feels a little squishy. If you pick up a Spider or a Steeler, you're going to say that it's very similar to a Floyd Rose because it is. The offset and the fulcrum offset to the saddle is pretty much identical as far as where the fulcrum point is to where the saddle piece is, because that changes how the tremolo works. If this is the fulcrum, okay, and your saddle is here, well, that changes, okay, your string action and how that string goes to the bridge. The further you move back, the closer. All these little measurements make a difference. The cam-based tremolo, the fulcrum in the saddle location is right on top because it's a cam and the string goes over it. So the string is riding on the cam. Okay? It comes forward and then it hits a roller, okay? And that's your indentation adjustment. Okay? So it's going to work like an APR bridge with like a jazz, Fender Jazz, something like that, where it's kind of loosening and going over the roller. Does that kind of make sense? So your intonation technically isn't changing because your roller saddle stays fixed and your cam is back here. Where, now see, notice the cam is moving? The intonation never can change because this is your saddle. On a fulcrum bass, if my knuckle is the saddle, watch what happens. As soon as I move that tremolo this distance, gets closer to the thing because it's working on an arc. Okay? The further away you are from the fulcrum, the less change it makes. The closer you are to the fulcrum, the more intonation change it makes. But they both have the exact same issue. When you pull up on the string, since it's pulling, the strings are pulling on the spring underneath. When you pull up on the strings on any floating bass tremolo, your other strings go out of tune. That's just part of it. That's why a lot of people that like fixed bass guitars, they pull up on the strings, and when they hit open notes, those open notes are still in tune. On a floating bridge, it always goes out. So that's usually the argument that you see a lot. Oh, I don't like a floating bridge because as soon as I bend the string, watch the tremolo moves. It has to. This tremolo just moves a little bit when you bend the strings. See it moving? See it coming up? It's just part of the design. With a fixed bridge, you can bend the you-know-what out of the strings and the base plate can't move. The saddle can't relocate. But even with the fulcrum bass, when you bend the strings, the cam can move. Once that cam moves, it changes the tension on the E, the A, whatever other string it isn't being bent, and it decreases the tune. So the end result's the same, whether it's cam bass or fulcrum bass. Volleying attaches behind the cam, so wrapping the string falls on the cam is prone to break strings at the wrappings. Yeah, that was part of the reason the Killer was so good, because the threaded part of the ball end of the string isn't where it's locking. Even though you, like on the Floyd, you got to cut it off. He said, well, why you got to cut it off? I'll make a string through design and then lock it up past the windings. So you didn't have those issues with the Killer. Now I have a Spider, and I'm pretty sure the Spider, you got to cut the ball ends off on the Spider, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I put strings on that guitar. My PV Vandenberg has a Spider on it. I was late. I got what's called the second production run of the Vandenbergs, and the second production run, they had already stopped putting the 2700 on it. So mine doesn't have the Killer. If mine had the Killer, it would be my dream guitar. I still want an original PV Vandenberg with a Killer on it. But I just can't bring myself to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a 30-year-old instrument. It could be worth it to find one like that. I can't bring myself to do it. There are string-through Floyds, but you should always cut the ball end off because of the wrappings interfere. Yeah, I think that's called the speed loader. There's other issues the speed loader has as well. They tried to adapt that piece to a bridge that wasn't designed for a string-through design. Again, that's Floyd Rose not being creative. They never went back to the drawing board and said, okay, these are the problems we're having with the base plate, the adjusters. How can we take this bridge to the next level? They didn't. They said, okay, here's our base plate. How can we redesign the saddles and stuff that'll still fit this base plate? Because we don't want to re-engineer anything. We would still want to be able to use this block or this or that. I think in the 90s, if they would have went, or the late 80s, and made some changes, maybe there would have been some improvements, but they never did. They just kind of stuck with the exact same design and did what I call patch fixing. All right, guys, I am going to call it because my throat is starting to get sore, and I do have to go to work tomorrow. So like we do on pretty much all the streams, I'm going to leave the chat window open. We're going to have 5 minutes for everyone to close up what they're talking about. And I want to thank everybody for coming on a Thursday night and hanging out with us. Um, there's a side of me that says, oh, we didn't do too much, but it was still cool. I liked going over the parts with Jupe's guitar. I got to jam a little bit. We talked about bridges. So something a little different tonight. Next week, we will have a guitar review on Thursday night. So, and like I said, that's going to be courtesy of Shandor Music. So, they give me the guitar to review. I should have it done and ready. So it'll be a video premiere. So you guys will still be able to chat and talk just like we do all the way through the premiere video. So it'll still be like a semi-live, but I'll be in there chatting with you. I won't be able to talk to you. I'll have to use the chat window just like you guys. So I think that'll be cool for next Thursday. And then, of course, this Saturday we'll have our live stream again. But I want to thank everybody for coming. Like I said, without you guys, the stream couldn't be possible. And I appreciate everyone coming and checking it out. And I'll see you guys on Saturday. And now I just got to figure out which one of these little thingies I need to hit.